Artillery dominated the battlefields of the Second World War, delivering more destruction than any other weapons system. The German Wehrmacht fielded one of the most extensive artillery arsenals ever assembled, from light infantry guns to massive railway-mounted siege weapons. These guns shaped combat from the invasion of Poland to the final defense of Berlin, defining how German forces fought across every major front. Light infantry guns provided direct fire support at the battalion level, accompanying frontline troops during assaults. The 7.5 cm Leicht's Infanterie Geschütz 18 served as the standard infantry gun throughout the war. This short-barreled weapon fired high-explosive and shape-charged rounds against fortifications, machine gun nests, and light armor. Its relatively light weight allowed manhandling by gun crews, though horses or vehicles typically provided transport. The IG-18 proved effective in its intended role, delivering responsive fire support directly under infantry control. Its limited range and lack of anti-tank effectiveness against modern armor represented inherent compromises accepted for mobility and immediate availability. Over 12,000 were manufactured, serving in every theater where German forces operated. The 15 cm Schwer's Infanterie Geschütz 33 provided heavier fire support for attacking infantry. This short-barreled howitzer delivered devastating high-explosive shells against fortifications and prepared positions. Its substantial weight required vehicular transport, and self-propelled variants mounted the gun on tank chassis for improved mobility. The SIG-33's destructive power made it valuable in urban combat and assault operations, where its ability to demolish reinforced structures proved essential. Production exceeded 4,000 units, with the weapon remaining in service throughout the war. German field artillery centered on versatile guns capable of both direct and indirect fire. The 10.5 cm Leicht Feldhaubitze 18 served as the standard divisional howitzer. This weapon combined reasonable mobility with effective firepower, firing high explosive, smoke, and chemical rounds to maximum ranges exceeding 10 kilometers. Its split-trail carriage provided stable firing platforms, and its relatively light weight for the caliber allowed horse or motorized transport. The Luftwaffe-18 proved reliable and accurate, forming the backbone of German divisional artillery throughout the war. Improved variants with muzzle brakes, extended range, and reduced recoil forces. Over 11,000 were produced, and the design influenced post-war artillery development. The 10.5 cm Kanone 18 provided longer range capability than the howitzer variant. This gun fired at higher velocities with flatter trajectories, proving effective for counter-battery fire and engaging targets beyond howitzer range. Its greater weight reduced mobility compared to the Luftwaffe-18, but its range advantage justified deployment in corps-level artillery units. Both weapons shared similar calibers, simplifying ammunition logistics while providing complementary capabilities. The 15 cm Schwer Feldhaubitze 18 delivered heavier divisional fire support. This howitzer fired 43 kg shells to ranges approaching 13 kilometers, providing devastating effects against prepared positions and area targets. Its weight necessitated mechanical transport, and emplacement required substantial effort from gun crews. The SFH-18 proved highly effective in both offensive and defensive operations, delivering concentrated firepower that characterized German artillery doctrine. Over 5,000 were manufactured, serving on all fronts. Like the lighter howitzer, improved variants incorporated muzzle brakes for enhanced performance. Heavy artillery provided corps and army-level fire support, engaging targets beyond field artillery range. The 15 cm Kanone 18 delivered long-range counter-battery and interdiction fire. This gun's high muzzle velocity and extended range allowed engagement of enemy artillery positions and disruption of rear area logistics. Its substantial weight required careful positioning, and displacement after firing proved time-consuming. The K-18 performed effectively in its intended role, though production numbers remained limited due to manufacturing complexity. The 17 cm Kanone 18 in Mortier Lafette represented an attempt to combine gun and howitzer capabilities capabilities on a common carriage. This system allowed mounting either a long-barreled 17-centimeter gun or a 21-centimeter howitzer, providing tactical flexibility. The concept proved overly complex, and relatively few were produced. Those that saw service delivered impressive firepower, but required extensive logistical support. The 21-centimeter Morser 18 heavy howitzer provided devastating area fire against fortifications and troop concentrations. This weapon fired 113 kilogram shells in high arcs, reaching targets behind cover and in defilade. Its weight limited mobility, and the gun required substantial time for emplacement and displacement. The Morser 18 proved effective in siege operations and prepared defensive positions, where its destructive power justified its operational constraints. Over 700 were manufactured. Anti-tank guns evolved rapidly as armor threats intensified. The 3.7-centimeter Panzerabwehrkanone 36 served as Germany's standard anti-tank gun at the war's outbreak. This light weapon proved effective against early war tanks with relatively thin armor. Its mobility allowed rapid deployment with infantry units, and its low profile aided concealment. However, increasing armor thickness on Allied tanks rendered the Pak-36 obsolete by 1941. German troops derisively nicknamed it the door knocker after its projectiles bounced off Soviet T-34 and KV-1 tanks without penetrating. Despite obsolescence, many remained in service throughout the war, supplemented by tungsten core ammunition that provided marginal improvement. The 5-centimeter Panzerabwehrkanone 38 addressed the Pak-30 SIXS inadequacies with a larger caliber and higher velocity. This weapon could defeat most medium tanks at combat ranges, providing infantry units with genuine anti-armor capability. Its greater weight reduced mobility compared to the smaller gun, but its effectiveness justified the compromise. Over 9,000 were manufactured, serving on all fronts. The Pak-38 remained adequate through 1942, but struggled against increasingly capable Allied armor thereafter. The 7.5-centimeter Panzerabwehrkanone 40 became Germany's most effective towed anti-tank gun. This weapon fired high-velocity, armor-piercing rounds capable of defeating any Allied tank at reasonable engagement ranges. Its long barrel and sophisticated ammunition design provided excellent penetration, while its relatively compact size allowed concealment and rapid deployment. The Pak-40 proved reliable and effective, forming the backbone of German anti-tank defenses from 1942 onward. Over 20,000 were manufactured, and the gun remained competitive throughout the war. Captured examples saw service with Soviet and Allied forces. The 8.8-centimeter Panzerabwehrkanone 43 provided even greater anti-tank performance, though production limitations restricted its deployment. This weapon represented the culmination of German towed anti-tank gun development, capable of engaging any Allied armor at extended ranges. Its weight and size made it less maneuverable than the Pak-40, but its firepower proved devastating when properly employed. The 8.8-centimeter flak gun achieved legendary status as both an anti-aircraft and anti-tank weapon. Originally developed as the Flak 18 for air defense, it featured high muzzle velocity and flat trajectory that proved equally effective against ground targets. During the North African campaign, German forces employed 88mm flak guns in anti-tank roles with devastating results against British armor. The weapon's ability to penetrate any Allied tank at combat ranges made it feared and respected. Later variants, including the Flak 36 and Flak 37, incorporated improvements while maintaining the basic design. The cruciform platform mounting provided stable firing but limited mobility when in-placed. Over 20,000 88mm flak guns were manufactured, serving in both anti-aircraft and anti-tank roles throughout the war. Lighter anti-aircraft weapons defended against low-level air attack. The 2-centimeter Flak 30 and improved Flak 38 provided point defense against aircraft and ground targets. These automatic weapons featured high rates of fire, though their effectiveness against modern aircraft remained limited. The 3.7-centimeter Flak variants offered greater range and hitting power, forming the intermediate anti-aircraft defense layer. The 15-centimeter Nebelwerfer 41 mounted 6 launch tube tubes on a wheeled carriage, firing rockets with high explosive warheads. Its distinctive howling sound during flight earned it the Allied nickname Screaming Mimi. The psychological effect of massed rocket fire proved significant, though accuracy remained poor compared to tube artillery. The 21-centimeter Nebelwerfer 42 delivered heavier rockets with greater destructive effect. These weapons provided economical area fire capability, requiring less industrial capacity than conventional artillery while delivering impressive firepower. German forces employed Nebelwerfer batteries extensively on the Eastern Front, where their saturation effect proved valuable against Soviet troop concentrations. Railway artillery provided strategic firepower for siege operations and coastal defense. These massive weapons mounted naval-caliber guns on reinforced railway cars, allowing repositioning along rail networks while providing stability for firing. The 28-centimeter Canona 5 railway gun delivered long-range interdiction fire, engaging targets dozens of kilometers distant. Its shells weighed over 250 kilograms, providing significant destructive effect. However, the weapon's reliance on rail infrastructure limited tactical flexibility and vulnerability to air attack constrained employment. The 80-centimeter Schwerer Gustav represented the ultimate expression of railway artillery. This colossal weapon weighed over 1,300 tons and fired 7-ton shells to ranges exceeding 40 kilometers. Designed to penetrate the French Maginot Line fortifications, it saw limited combat use during the siege of Sevastopol, where its massive shells destroyed fortified positions and underground installations. The weapon's immense size required hundreds of personnel for operation and extensive rail infrastructure for deployment. Only 2 were completed, and their operational impact proved negligible relative to resources consumed. Gustav represented German engineering taken to impractical extremes, a technological marvel of limited military utility. Smaller railway guns, including the 24-centimeter and 28-centimeter Canona variants, provided more practical heavy fire support. These weapons delivered strategic-level firepower while requiring less logistical support than the super-heavy guns. German forces employed them in coastal defense and siege operations, where their range and destructive power justified their limitations. Captured artillery supplemented German production throughout the war. French, Soviet, Czech, and Polish guns entered German service, often redesignated and integrated into Wehrmacht artillery units. This practice addressed production limitations, but created logistical complications as ammunition and spare parts varied by origin. German forces employed captured Soviet 76mm field guns, French 75mm guns, and Czech howitzers alongside indigenous equipment. The diversity of types complicated supply operations, but provided additional firepower when German industry could not meet demand. Self-propelled artillery-mounted guns on track chassis, providing mobile fire support for armored formations. The West mounted the 10.5-centimeter LeFH-18 on a modified Panzer II chassis, creating an effective self-propelled howitzer. The Hummel carried the 15-centimeter SFH-18 on a Panzer III and IV hybrid chassis, delivering heavy divisional fire support with armor protection. These vehicles allowed artillery to keep pace with advancing panzer divisions, providing responsive indirect fire without the delays inherent in towed guns. Production of self-propelled artillery never met requirements, but those produced proved highly effective in mobile operations. The artillery that armed German forces throughout the Second World War reflected a military tradition emphasizing firepower concentration and responsive fire support. German doctrine integrated guns of varying calibers into combined arms teams, coordinating fire with infantry and armor advances. The effectiveness of German artillery stemmed less from individual weapon superiority than from sophisticated fire control, rapid deployment, and integration with maneuver elements. While guns like the 88mm Flak achieved legendary status, the workhorses of German artillery remained the 10.5cm and 15cm howitzers that provided consistent divisional fire support. The variety of calibers and types reflected both doctrinal sophistication and industrial limitations, as Germany struggled to standardize production while meeting diverse operational requirements. German artillery doctrine and employment techniques influenced post-war military thinking, establishing principles that remain relevant in contemporary warfare. These weapons delivered more destruction than any other system employed by German forces, shaping battles through the weight and accuracy of their fire.